Do you have trouble getting on and off of the floor? You know, grandkids, they don't understand this stuff, and they don't really care either. Hey folks, this is Dr. Jeff Williams with Creekstone right here in Amarillo. And this week I'm coming to you to talk a little bit about what can happen to us when we take our eye off of the ball, and hopefully even to give those that need it a bit of inspiration. When we're young and we feel like superheroes, getting on the floor and getting up again, it's basically like 1 + 1 = 2. It's simple, it's a given. When we get a bit older though, as many of you know, that changes just a bit now, doesn't it? Of course it does. The older we get, the less likely we are to be found on the floor. And that's fine and dandy for most of us because our kids grow up. You never really have a need to get back down on the floor, do you? Until one day, most of us will have grandchildren come along, won't we? These cute little faces, they want grandpa and grandma to look at this cool little thing that they're doing or this neat little thing they're playing with. And the problem is, they always seem to want you down in the floor looking at it with them, don't they? Well, for some of us, that really creates an issue because we stopped doing that some time ago. In a moment, I'm going to share a personal story about me, but here's the thing. Those that have stayed active and involved in some sort of diet and exercise regimen will likely still have very few problems getting down onto the floor and getting back up again. Doesn't seem to bother them. Those that have not maintained will need to reconsider their priorities. Many of us fall off for different reasons, and they're all understandable. Some examples may be that we get busy, don't we? It's hard to find time to work out and go for a walk after a full day of working all day, and you're trying to raise kids and you're trying to feed the family and cook dinner, and there's just no time for it sometimes. Some have had pain to the point where they started slipping into what is called fear avoidance behavior. And that's when we start withdrawing from activities that we love to do, things that really feed our souls. And then we physically start to decondition and weaken. We decondition after only 7 days of inactivity. So imagine where we are physically after several years of being relatively inactive, right? Yet another reason may be just simple laziness. Some folks are just straight up lazy, and I myself have been guilty of being lazy and inactive at different times in my life. In fact, like I said, I'm going to share a bit of a story. So I'm going to give you some of my personal testimony tinged with a little bit of education and some research. So for the last 8 months or so, I've been engaged in a transformation of sorts, physically and hopefully mentally. I was big time in athletics in high school and college. Not big time as in famous. I was in it big time for me. Again, in high school and college. And then, life took over. I got busy. I didn't have enough money in the beginning to afford a gym membership anyways, even if I wanted one. Then, once the habit of working out is kind of out of your system, well, you kind of get lazy. And you kind of like it that way. It's hard to make people exercise, and it's harder and harder to make yourself care about diet and exercise the longer you've been inactive. And that inactivity leads to deconditioning, like I said. Deconditioning leads to weakness. Inactivity leads to weight gain. Weight gain leads to painful joints and backs. And all of that can combine to wind up in depression. Depression, as a matter of fact, research is very clear, depression worsens chronic pain. So does, by the way, a poor diet. A healthy, nutritious diet helps with chronic pain. Now, we can legitimately and very easily wind up in a cycle, kind of a downward spiral that takes real effort, real attention, and real work to get out of. Back in September of 2020, I decided that I've had enough of that ride, and I'd like to step off of it now. Thank you very much. Since then, I've lost 45 pounds. I've built muscles back, and I've built abilities back that have been absent for well over a decade. And I'm here to tell you that it feels great. It really feels great. Not only physically, but also from a mental aspect. I tell patients all the time that we all have a due date, right? Are you going to roll over and just give up and just let the steamroller take you out of your misery passively? Or are you going to go down fighting and skidding in sideways with the rubber tires smoking and screaming and all hell breaking loose? I'm interested in skidding sideways with the tires screaming and smoking and all hell breaking loose. My point is, if we are weak, we know that activity and doing the things we are weak in repeatedly will then lead to getting stronger at that activity, getting better at it. So if getting up out of the floor is difficult for you, you have to get on the floor and you have to get off of the floor repeatedly so that you build that skill back up, so that you recondition the muscles that enable you to do that activity. I'll share with you all that I hated going down steps just 8 months ago. It hurt my knees, my ankles, my legs. Now they don't hardly bother me they don't bother me at all, hardly. In fact, I run back up the steps sometimes. 8 months ago, getting into the floor was not something I had much interest in. Now, as a regular part of my Mirror Gym workouts, I get up and down on the floor probably 50 times a week altogether, maybe more. The point is not to boast, but to tell you that real intention and real effort toward improving is available to all of us. It's just taking that first step. Sometimes that first step is a visit to see someone like me, so that you can get some relief from that back pain that's keeping you from getting active. Sometimes that first step is calling a personal trainer and having a consult with them. It might be going to a nutritionist, or it could be going to the internet to buy that Mirror Gym or a Peloton or something of that nature. Maybe it's just deciding you're going to walk around your block a time or two every day. Whatever that first step is, just remember some key concepts going forward, okay? Number 1, movement is healing. Motion is the lotion for the joints, folks. People have traumatic surgery, yet they are walking the hospital halls the very next day, sometimes the day of surgery. When you move, you heal. You get stronger. Your abilities expand, and from there, your world expands. Number 2, hurt does not mean harm. When you are deconditioned and weak and you have pain, many activities may hurt a little bit. As long as it doesn't feel harmful, well, it's typically okay to keep going and working through that hurt. Healing is usually on the other side of the hurt, because recall the fact that movement is healing. Motion is the lotion. Number 3, a lot of pain and inactivity is all tied back to your mental space. If you've been in pain for a long time, part of the work needs to be physical, but part of it also needs to be cognitive. Get a book called Back in Control by Dr. David Hanscom. He's a spinal surgeon. Back in Control, David Hanscom. Website is backincontrol.com. Thank me later. Now, number 4, Weight Watchers is the most effective long-term solution I have been able to identify when it comes to diet and nutrition. Weight Watchers has so many resources and such a long track record that those that buy in are almost guaranteed success. It's not a diet, it's an eating coach, and it could not be any easier to get started and follow. Most diets are not sustainable. You can do them short term, you can lose the weight, but they're not sustainable. Weight Watchers is sustainable. It teaches you how to drive through the Wendy's drive-through or the McDonald's drive-through and order something that makes sense, that fits. It's a lifetime and a lifestyle change for the better if you just go along with it. Now, I've given you some ideas here, I've given you some solutions, and hopefully I've given you some inspiration. I promise you, if I can get on and off of the floor, given where I was physically 8 months ago, well, you can too. You just have to decide you will. and then jump in head first, folks. Let's hit the finish line with our tires smoking. How about that? Again, I'm Dr. Jeff Williams with Creekstone. If you're watching us on YouTube here, subscribe, comment, and share. It does nobody good if nobody sees it. So help me out. Same goes if you're watching on Facebook. Like, comment, and share. That's the way social media works. If you are from the Amarillo area or you're going to be traveling through and you want to be seen by us, call us at 806-355-3000. Let's get you on the schedule. We'd love to help. Until next week, stay safe, get moving, and get those tires screaming.